Emily's boots crunched on the frost-covered dirt road as the first rays of sunlight pierced the mist. She froze, heart hammering, when a dark silhouette with massive wings sliced across the clearing. "David, did you see that?" she whispered, panic cracking her voice. David, fumbling with his coffee thermos, blinked. It's just a bird, right?" But the shadow lingered, impossibly tall, perched on a branch far above. Branches snapped below, as if something moved with unnatural grace. Emily's chest tightened. The figure tilted its head, glowing red eyes fixing her in place. The wind stilled, and an eerie silence wrapped the clearing, leaving only the low, resonant thrum of wings. Her stomach churned as the silhouette vanished into the fog. Emily's voice trembled as she whispered, "I don't know what that was, David, but it wasn't any bird I've ever seen." David rubbed his eyes, scanning the tree line again, denying what his instincts told him. The frost glimmered under sunlight, yet the silence that followed felt heavy, unnatural. A low rustle came from the edge of the trees, making Emily's stomach knot. "We should head back," she urged, but the road ahead seemed to stretch forever, wrapped in a mist that refused to lift. Shadows seemed to lengthen unnaturally, and for a moment she swore she saw movement that didn't belong. Her heartbeat pounded as fear gnawed at every thought, leaving reason behind. Emily and David's steps echoed unnaturally as they moved, crunching frost that smelled faintly of pine. Every snapped twig made Emily flinch. "I know you don't believe me," she said, voice low, "but it's here. It's watching." David's brow furrowed. Part of him wanted to dismiss her fear, but instinct rooted him in place. The clearing ahead seemed empty, yet Emily's mind filled with shapes and movements that weren't there. A shadow flickered between two distant pines, enough to make her gasp. Even as sunlight brightened the road, unease pressed down, the forest silence too thick to be natural. Emily froze again when a long shadow slithered across the road. "David, it moved," she whispered, gripping his arm. He followed her gaze, shivering as the silhouette melted into the misty tree line. Panic rose in her chest. Every instinct screamed they were being hunted. The forest seemed alive, stretching, breathing. Wind shifted sharply, carrying a sound too low and resonant to be natural. Emily's throat tightened. She wanted to run, to scream, but her legs felt heavy, rooted in frost and fear. Even David, always logical, looked pale and unsettled. A snap echoed, closer this time. Emily stumbled backward, heart racing, dragging David with her. "We're not alone," she said, voice shaking. The fog shifted unnaturally, revealing nothing yet suggesting everything. Red eyes flashed briefly through the trees before vanishing. Emily's mind raced with images from legends and old stories. She knew instinctively this wasn't a fleeting terror. Something intelligent was stalking them. The road ahead seemed endless, the forest closing in. She realized with dread that escaping might not be enough. They were being hunted, and the morning sun offered no comfort. Emily wiped frost from her coat as she led David toward the cabin, heart still pounding from the silhouette at sunrise. "I can't shake it," she said, voice trembling. David rubbed his temples, trying to rationalize, but his eyes kept darting to the tree line. "Maybe it's just animals," he offered, though unease laced his tone. Emily shook her head, gripping the journal she carried, pages filled with old family stories. Every instinct screamed danger. Frost crunched under their boots, and the cold air carried a faint rustle from deep within the forest. Her mind raced with memories of her sister Sarah, lost to the woods years ago, making this morning feel like fate repeating itself. Inside the cabin, Emily tried to warm her hands over the stove. "Do you really think it was following us?" David asked, unease softening into worry. Emily shook her head, voice low. "It watches. It waits." The journal lay open, revealing sketches of the winged creature and cryptic notes. Outside, the wind rattled window panes, carrying whispers that sounded almost human. Emily traced her finger along the notes, heart aching with fear and nostalgia. Memories of Sarah's disappearance tugged at her soul, and the forest outside seemed alive, stretching closer to the cabin with each gust of wind. David sat silently, realizing disbelief offered no shield from the unknown. A sudden knock at the cabin door made Emily jump. "Who's there?" she called, voice shaking. Silence answered, save for the groaning of old wood. David approached cautiously, hand hovering near the doorframe. A small figure appeared in the frost outside. Lily, Emily's niece, pale-faced and wide-eyed. "Aunt Emily, I saw it," Lily whispered. Emily's heart clenched. "Saw what, Lily?" The girl shivered, pointing toward the forest. Red eyes glimmered briefly between the pines before vanishing. Emily pulled her close, protective instincts flaring. The presence they had feared seemed patient, intelligent, and relentless, surrounding them with an invisible pressure that stole comfort from every corner of the cabin. Emily huddled with Lily near the stove as wind rattled the windows, carrying strange, low whispers. "It's real," Emily murmured, feeling the weight of generations of family stories pressing on her. David tried to maintain calm, scanning the cabin with furrowed brows. "We need proof," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. Outside, shadows shifted in ways that defied logic. Emily clutched the journal, heart racing. She could feel the creature circling, measuring, waiting. The forest seemed to breathe with a rhythm all its own, each gust carrying the memory of her sister's disappearance. Silence had become unbearable, tension thick enough to taste. As the sun rose higher, the frost began to melt, but the cabin felt trapped in its own microcosm of dread. Emily whispered, "We're not alone here. It knows we're awake." David rubbed his forehead, trying to summon reason, yet every instinct screamed otherwise. Lily peeked toward the window, shivering. Red eyes appeared fleetingly among the trees, then disappeared. Emily's mind replayed the journal's warnings: creatures that hunt families, that linger until stories are remembered. A chill ran down her spine. Even daylight offered no safety. Fear had settled deep into their bones, making every shadow, every whisper, feel like imminent danger. Emily stepped outside the cabin at dusk, frost melting under her boots. She scanned the tree line nervously. The tracks. "They weren't there this morning," she murmured, voice tight with dread. David bent low to examine the earth, tracing deep, unnatural prints. "These aren't any animal I know," he said, unease creeping into his tone. Wind rustled the branches, carrying whispers that sounded almost deliberate. Emily shivered, gripping Lily's hand. The forest seemed to shift, each shadow elongating unnaturally. Her chest tightened as the realization struck: the creature wasn't just a fleeting terror. It was stalking them, circling closer with every passing moment. The trio returned to the cabin as darkness thickened. Emily's gaze kept darting to shadows near the tree line. "I keep thinking I hear wings," she whispered, voice trembling. David tried to reassure her. "It's probably just wind through the pines." But even he flinched at the sound of snapping branches nearby. Lily clutched Emily's coat tightly. Red eyes glimmered in the distance, then vanished before they could focus. Every gust of wind seemed purposeful, every rustle calculated. Emily realized the forest itself had become a predator, and their isolation left them vulnerable. Fear gnawed at the edges of reason, urging her toward the journal and old warnings about creatures that hunt the living. Emily's fingers traced the journal's pages, heart pounding. The markings, they matched the tracks, she said, voice barely audible. David leaned closer, scrutinizing the sketches. "There's no record of something like this," he murmured, tension in his jaw. Outside, shadows shifted against the cabin walls, impossible shapes moving with intent. Lily whimpered softly, hiding behind Emily. The air seemed charged, every gust of wind carrying the echo of wings. Emily's mind replayed stories of her sister, realizing the creature's hunting patterns might be tied to her family. Doubt and fear collided, leaving reason powerless against the creeping terror. A sudden crash outside made all three jump. "It's coming closer," Emily gasped, gripping Lily. David moved to block the window, eyes wide. The tree line seemed alive, branches bending unnaturally as if something massive stalked them. A rustling sound circled the cabin, Then silence. Emily's heartbeat pounded. Fear had become a living thing, pressing against the walls. Her sister's memory, the journal, and the red eyes flashed through her mind. Every instinct screamed to run, yet the forest had them trapped in its cold embrace. The creature's presence was undeniable, deliberate, and terrifyingly intelligent. Night deepened, and the cabin felt suffocating. Emily whispered, "We can't stay here. It won't leave us alone." David nodded reluctantly, scanning their surroundings for escape routes. Lily clutched Emily's coat, eyes wide with fear. Outside, the forest echoed with snapping twigs and the low resonance of wings. Emily's stomach twisted as she imagined shadows moving closer, calculating, waiting. The creature wasn't random. It hunted with intent, circling, watching. Every step, every sound, every breath reminded them they were prey in a forest alive with unseen eyes. The tension pressed inward, leaving them trapped in anticipation of the next encounter. Emily rifled through the journal, pages marked with centuries-old sketches that matched the creature's form. "David, it's been hunting our family," she said, voice tight, barely a whisper. David leaned over, eyes wide, tracing the symbols. "There's a pattern. It knows us," he muttered, fear seeping into his tone. Lily clutched Emily's coat, shivering. Outside, wind carried snapping twigs and the faint resonance of wings. Emily realized the creature was intelligent, calculating, aware of their every step. Her chest tightened as dread pressed down. The silhouette at sunrise wasn't random. It was personal, waiting for them to uncover the truth. A sudden noise at the cabin door made Emily freeze. "It knows we're here," she whispered. David moved toward the window, tension etched across his face. Outside, Rachel, their neighbor, appeared pale, feigning concern. "I saw something in the woods," Rachel said, voice calm but eyes darting. Emily's instincts screamed betrayal. Trust fractured in an instant. The journal's warnings echoed in her mind. The creature lured people, manipulated fear. Every shadow seemed to pulse with intent. Every gust of wind felt deliberate. Emily knew they were being watched, and betrayal made them vulnerable in ways fear alone never could. Emily confronted Rachel, voice low and sharp. "Why didn't you warn us sooner?" Rachel avoided eye contact, shifting uneasily. I didn't know how," she admitted, lips quivering. The forest seemed to lean closer, shadows bending, red eyes flickering at the edges of perception. David's face hardened. "We can't trust anyone outside this cabin," he said, glancing at Emily and Lily. The journal trembled under Emily's hands. Every instinct screamed that the creature manipulated both human and environment. Night pressed around them, the unseen presence patient, intelligent, waiting for the right moment to strike. A sudden rustling from outside silenced all voices. Emily pressed Lily close. David's flashlight flickered, catching glimpses of a massive silhouette weaving between pines. "It's not just outside. It's circling," Emily whispered, teeth clenched. Rachel froze, pale and silent. Wind shifted violently, carrying low, intelligent sounds, the resonance of wings calculating each move. Emily's mind raced with past encounters in the journal, realizing the pattern of stalking, the familial connection, and the predator's patience. Fear intensified into calculated dread. Escape alone seemed impossible. Emily's hands shook as she clutched the journal. "It's been watching us for generations," she said, voice cracking. David's jaw tightened, realization dawning. "This isn't random," he said. Lily whimpered softly, sensing the invisible threat. Outside, shadows moved with uncanny precision, red eyes appearing briefly, then vanishing. Rachel stepped back, fear overtaking her calm facade. Emily understood that the creature was intelligent, patient, and deeply personal in its pursuit. The cabin was no longer a refuge. It was a stage, and the predator had drawn them into the next act of its calculated hunt. Emily gripped Lily's hand as the first rays of sunrise barely cut through thick mist. "It's here," she whispered, heart pounding. David peered into the forest, flashlight trembling in his grip. Red eyes glimmered between trees, moving deliberately. A gust of wind carried low, resonant wing beats that vibrated through the cabin walls. Emily's mind raced, replaying every warning from the journal and every shadow she had glimpsed. Her stomach twisted with dread. The creature was no longer distant, it was circling, calculating. Every instinct screamed to run, yet the forest and the cabin offered no escape. Emily's eyes darted as shadows shifted closer. "We have to move now," she said urgently. David nodded, scanning paths through the dense pine. Lily clung to Emily, shivering. The forest seemed alive, every branch bending, every shadow stretching unnaturally. A low, intelligent screech split the air, freezing them in place. Emily's pulse raced. She could feel the creature's attention locked onto them. Every step forward risked discovery. The mist swirled like a living entity, obscuring escape routes. Fear gripped them, but action was necessary. They had no choice but to confront the unknown or be consumed by it. Branches snapped loudly behind them. Emily spun, dragging Lily behind a cluster of frosted pines. David held a fallen log as a makeshift shield, eyes wide, scanning for movement. Red eyes appeared briefly, then vanished. Wind carried the resonant thrum of wings, closing the distance. Emily whispered, "It knows every step we take." Her voice trembled. The forest pressed in from all sides, the sunlight weak against thick mist. Each breath felt stolen, each heartbeat amplified. The creature was patient, intelligent, relentless. Survival depended on wit, courage, and the fragile trust between them. Emily's heart raced as they reached a clearing. The creature's silhouette emerged, wings unfurled, massive and menacing. "It's bigger than I imagined," David whispered, voice cracking. Red eyes locked on them, unblinking, calculated. Emily gritted her teeth, holding Lily's hand tightly. Wind howled, carrying low, deliberate wing beats that shook the ground. The journal's warnings played through her mind. She understood instinctively this confrontation was unavoidable. Every instinct screamed to run, but the path forward was limited. Courage had to override fear, or the forest would claim them all. Emily stood frozen, chest tight, eyes locked on the creature's glowing gaze. Lily trembled, clutching her coat. David steadied himself, voice low. "We have to distract it, now." The wings unfurled fully, brushing frost-laden ground with terrifying power. Emily whispered a plan, adrenaline replacing dread. A gust of wind swept through the clearing, carrying the low resonance of wings. Every shadow moved with intent, every sound deliberate. This was the apex of fear and determination, a moment where survival demanded clarity, courage, and unrelenting resolve. The forest waited, silent for the next move. Emily, David, and Lily stumbled back toward the cabin as the first light of day softened the forest. Their breaths came in ragged gasps. It's gone, for now," Emily whispered, voice trembling. David scanned the surrounding pines, tension still evident. Lily clutched Emily's hand, shivering. Frost glistened on the ground, yet the sense of danger lingered. Every snapped branch and whisper of wind reminded them that safety was temporary. Emily's mind raced with the journal's warnings. Even daylight did not erase the memory of glowing red eyes, or the realization that their encounter was far from random. Inside the cabin, Emily set the journal down carefully, tracing the edges of its worn cover. "We survived, but this doesn't feel like victory," she murmured. David nodded, exhaustion in his eyes. Lily peeked out the window, her small face pale, still wary of the forest. The silence inside the cabin contrasted sharply with the chaos of the night before. Frost clung to window panes, sunlight glinting softly. The forest beyond seemed calm, yet Emily felt its presence like a pulse beneath the earth. Trust had shifted, and caution now governed every movement. Emily walked to the door, peering at the frost-laden forest beyond. "Even if we're safe now, it's still out there," she whispered. David followed, silent. Lily's small hand gripped hers tightly. The forest looked ordinary, almost peaceful, yet every instinct screamed danger lingered. Memories of the red eyes, snapping branches, and winged shadows haunted them. Emily realized their encounter would stay with them, a permanent imprint on their lives. Safety was fragile, fleeting, and the forest had not yet released its hold. David packed a small bag, glancing toward Emily. "We should leave the area for now," he suggested, voice low. Emily nodded, gripping the journal tightly. Lily lingered at the doorway, reluctant to leave the perceived safety of the cabin. Outside, the forest appeared serene, but shadows and rustling leaves reminded them of the night's terror. Emily's mind replayed each step of their encounter, the journal's warnings echoing in her head. They had survived, but the encounter left an unshakable mark, a reminder that the forest, and the creature within, was patient and enduring. As they stepped outside, Emily paused, scanning the misty forest one last time. "We survived this, but it's still out there," she whispered. David nodded silently, pulling the bag over his shoulder. Lily clung to Emily, eyes wide. The sun climbed slowly, casting long shadows that shifted unnaturally. Frost sparkled on pine needles, a deceptive calm settling over the clearing. Emily felt a cold weight in her chest, the knowledge that the encounter had changed them permanently. They left the cabin, aware that daylight offered little protection, and that the forest and its predator would remain, waiting. Emily paused on the forest edge, sunlight breaking over the misty treetops. "It's still out there," she whispered to David, voice tight with unease. Lily clutched her hand, eyes wide. The shadows between the pines seemed to stretch unnaturally, twisting with movement. A low, resonant wing beat echoed in the distance, chilling her to the bone. Emily's chest tightened as instinct screamed. The creature was watching, waiting for another moment to strike. Every rustle, every shifting shadow reminded them that survival was temporary. The forest held its secret, patient and unfaltering. As they walked cautiously along the frost-covered path, Emily felt a prickle at the back of her neck. "It knows we're awake," she murmured. David nodded, his jaw tight. Lily stayed close, her small hand gripping Emily's. The forest seemed to breathe around them, every branch bending slightly as if alive. Red eyes flickered briefly between the trees, vanishing before anyone could react. Emily's heart pounded, knowing that daylight offered little protection. The predator's intelligence was unnerving, patient and personal, marking this forest as territory and them as prey, forever remembered. A sudden rustle stopped them. Emily froze, whispering, "It's near." The trees swayed unnaturally, shadows shifting with impossible speed. David gripped a nearby branch for balance, eyes darting. Lily whimpered softly, hiding closer to Emily. The forest was alive with deliberate movement, every sound measured, every shadow intentional. Emily's mind raced with the journal's warnings. She realized the creature's hunt wasn't over. It observed, calculated, waited. Fear pressed in from all sides, the forest itself an accomplice to the relentless predator. Emily stopped at a clearing, heart hammering. "Look," she whispered. A familiar silhouette hovered briefly above distant trees, wings unfurled, eyes glowing. Lily gasped, trembling. David's breath caught. Emily's mind raced, realizing the creature wasn't random. It had followed, calculated, and waited for them to leave the cabin. Every instinct screamed danger, but escape was impossible. The sun's light barely touched the shadowed forest. Emily understood, with a sickening certainty, that this predator's presence would linger, haunting their memories, as it always had. As they moved away, Emily glanced back one final time. The shadow lingered, retreating slowly into the mist but leaving a chill that wrapped around her soul. Lily clutched her coat, humming a tune that echoed eerily. David exhaled sharply, relief tempered by unease. The forest seemed calm, yet every instinct warned them that daylight was temporary. Emily understood that their encounter had ended only for now. The predator's presence remained, patient and enduring. The red eyes, the wings, the deliberate movement would haunt their memories, a permanent scar of the forest's silent vigilance.